My husband humiliated me in front of everyone, but our daughter's words left him speechless. Asterisk, the crystal chandelier casts dancing shadows across the mahogany dining table, but Elena can't focus on anything except the tightness in her chest. Her husband's laughter echoes through the room, sharp, cutting, familiar in all the wrong ways. You should have seen her this morning, David says, gesturing with his wine glass toward where she sits frozen at the far end of the table. Burned the eggs again, I swear. 20 years of marriage and she still can't master basic breakfast. His sister Margaret snorts, dabbing at her lipstick. Well, at least she tries, David. Remember when Mom used to say that Elena's cooking could kill a man? David's uncle chimes in, and the table erupts in cruel laughter. Elena's fingers tighten around her napkin, the silk dress she'd chosen so carefully this morning. The deep emerald one David used to say matched her eyes suddenly feels like armor that's failed her completely. She can smell her mother-in-law's perfume, too heavy and suffocating, mixing with the scent of the roast she'd spent hours preparing. The same roast they're now praising while simultaneously tearing her down. Her daughter Lily shifts in the chair beside her, small hands fidgeting with her fork. Elena catches the child's worried glance and forces a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Elena's always been domestic, David continues, and there's something in his tone that makes her stomach drop, something darker than his usual dismissive comments. Though I have to say, motherhood hasn't exactly been kind to her figure. The words hit like ice water. Elena's breath catches, and for a moment, the elegant dining room with its imported wallpaper and family portraits tilts dangerously. 20 years of building a life together, of loving him through his bad moods and career disappointments, of being the steady presence he could always come home to. Margaret's husband shifts uncomfortably, but says nothing. Elena's own sister Lisa, visiting from Portland, stares down at her plate with carefully controlled fury. But it's David's mother who delivers the final blow. Well, dear, the older woman says with false sweetness, perhaps if you spent less time on your little art projects and more time at the gym. Elena's hand trembles as she reaches for her water glass. The condensation feels cold against her palm, grounding her in this nightmare moment. She can hear her heartbeat in her ears, feel the heat of humiliation creeping up her neck. But then she becomes aware of something else, a stillness, a shift in the room's energy that makes her look up. David is still talking, still performing for his audience, but there's something predatory about it now. Something that makes her see him clearly for the first time in years. The way his eyes narrow when he thinks he's being clever. The satisfied curve of his mouth when he lands what he thinks is a particularly cutting observation. When did he start looking at her like she was the enemy? Elena's gaze drifts to their wedding photo on the sideboard, young faces, hopeful smiles. Her hand resting trustingly in his. The woman in that photo believed in forever. Believed in the man standing beside her in his navy suit, promising to cherish and protect her. The thing about Elena, David is saying now, his voice carrying that particular edge it gets when he's had just enough wine to be truly cruel, is that she's never really understood her place, Daddy. The word cuts through the room like a blade. Small, clear, absolute. 8-year-old Lily has risen from her chair, her dark eyes, David's eyes, fixed on her father with an intensity that makes every adult in the room fall silent. Elena's breath stops entirely. What did you say, sweetheart? David asks, his performer's smile faltering slightly. But Lily doesn't repeat herself. Instead, she looks around the table with the kind of devastating honesty that only children possess. And Elena realizes that everything, absolutely everything, is about to change. The chandelier continues its gentle swaying. The roast grows cold on their plates, and in the sudden, profound silence, Elena can hear the sound of her own heart breaking open, not with pain this time, but with something that feels dangerously close to hope. The silence stretches like a wire pulled taut. Elena watches her daughter's small frame trembling with 8-year-old courage, and something fierce and protective awakens in her chest, something that's been sleeping too long. If you don't love Mommy, Lily says, her voice growing stronger with each word, why did you marry her? David's wine glass hovers halfway to his lips. The color drains from his face so quickly Elena thinks he might actually be sick. Around the table, His relatives suddenly find their food fascinating. Forks scraping against china in the most uncomfortable symphony she's ever heard. "Lily, sweetheart." David begins, but his daughter isn't finished. "She loves you every day." The words ring with simple truth. She makes your coffee just how you like it. She irons your shirts even when her hands hurt. She stays up late when you have to work, and she never complains when you're mean to her. Elena's vision blurs. When did her daughter become so observant? When did this little girl start carrying the weight of her parents' broken marriage in her small shoulders? Margaret clears her throat. "Perhaps we should know." Elena's voice surprises everyone, including herself. It's steady, calm, nothing like the trembling mess she felt inside moments ago. Let her finish. She looks at her daughter, really looks at her, and sees herself reflected there. Not David's eyes after all, but her own determination, her own quiet strength that she'd somehow forgotten she possessed. Lily's lower lip quivers, but she continues. At school, when Tommy's dad picks him up, he always hugs Tommy's mom first, and Sarah's parents hold hands at the school plays. Her voice breaks slightly. "Why don't you hold Mommy's hand anymore, Daddy?" The question lands like a physical blow. Elena remembers David's hands, strong and warm, threading through her fingers during their evening walks. When did they stop walking together? When did they stop touching at all, except in passing, except by accident? David sets down his wine glass with more force than necessary. Red liquid sloshes dangerously close to the rim. "Lily, this is adult conversation. You were talking about Mommy in front of everyone." Lily shoots back, and Elena sees her own stubborn streak flaring in her daughter's stance. "That's not fair. She's sitting right here, and you're being mean to her, and everyone's laughing." And her voice cracks completely. "And I don't understand why you don't love her anymore." Elena stands abruptly, her chair scraping against hardwood. She can't sit here anymore. Can't let her daughter fight battles that should be hers. But as she moves toward Lily, she catches sight of herself in the mirror above the sideboard. The woman looking back at her is a stranger. When did she become so small, so careful? The emerald dress that once made her feel beautiful now hangs loose in places it used to hug. Her hair, once her pride, is pulled back in the same practical bun she's worn for months, years. But her eyes are still hers, and in them, she sees something awakening, something dangerous and necessary. "Elena," David starts, but she holds up a hand. "Don't." The word carries 20 years of swallowed protests, buried dreams, and quiet disappointments. "Just don't." She kneels beside Lily, gathering her daughter's small hands in her own. They're cold, trembling, and Elena realizes with startling clarity that her child has been living in this toxic atmosphere every single day, watching, learning, absorbing the lesson that love looks like cruelty, that marriage means enduring humiliation and silence. "You're right, baby," Elena whispers, loud enough for the entire table to hear. "You're absolutely right." She looks up at David then, and something passes between them, recognition, perhaps, or maybe just the acknowledgement of an ending that's been a long time coming. His face is flushed, whether from wine or shame, she can't tell. But for the first time in years, she sees him clearly, sees the man who used to bring her flowers just because it was Tuesday, sees how far they've both fallen from the people they used to be. The difference is, she remembers who she was before she became afraid of her own voice. "Mommy?" Lily's whisper breaks through her thoughts. Elena stands, still holding her daughter's hand, and faces the room full of people who've watched her humiliation like dinner theater. The chandelier light catches the tears on her cheeks, but she doesn't wipe them away. Let them see. Let them all see what their complicit silence has cost. "I think," she says quietly, "it's time we went home." The drive home happens in crystalline silence. Elena's hands grip the steering wheel, knuckles white against the leather, while Lily sits in the back seat humming softly to herself the way she does when she's processing things too big for 8-year-old words. David took his own car. Of course he did. 20 years of marriage, and they can't even share the same space anymore without everything splintering apart. Elena parks in their driveway and stares at the house they've called home for 12 years. Colonial style, painted soft blue, because David said it would have good resale value. She'd wanted yellow sunshine yellow with white trim and flower boxes under every window. But she'd compromised, like she always did. "Mommy," Lily's voice, is small from the back seat. "Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" The question hits her solar plexus. Elena closes her eyes, listening to the engine tick as it cools, breathing in the familiar scent of Lily's strawberry lip gloss and the vanilla air freshener. Hanging from the rearview mirror, "I don't know, baby." It's the first completely honest thing she's said in months. They sit together on Lily's bed later, after baths and bedtime stories, and the careful ritual of normal that they both desperately need. Elena brushes her daughter's damp hair, counting the strokes like a meditation. "I'm sorry," she whispers into the lamplight softness of the room. "For what?" "For letting you see. For not protecting you from," Elena's voice catches. "You shouldn't have had to stand up for me tonight. That should have been my job." Lily turns in her arms, dark eyes serious and far too knowing. "But you were sad. I could tell. You get this little line right here." She touches Elena's forehead, gently, when you're trying not to cry. Elena's heart breaks and mends simultaneously. "When did you get so wise?" "I watch you," Lily says simply. "I watch everything." Downstairs, Elena hears the front door open and close. David's home. She listens to his footsteps heavy, uncertain, moving through their house like he's not sure he belongs there anymore. After Lily falls asleep, Elena finds him in his study, still wearing his dinner clothes but with his tie loosened, his shirt untucked. He looks older somehow, defeated in a way that should satisfy her, but only makes her feel empty. "We need to talk," she says from the doorway. He doesn't look up from his hands. "I know." She enters the room slowly, taking in the details she's stopped noticing over the years. His diplomas on the wall, the golf trophies, the photo of the three of them from last Christmas, all smiles and forced cheer. When did they become such accomplished liars? "How long have you hated me?" she asks quietly. The question makes him flinch. "Elena, I don't." "Tonight wasn't the first time, David. It's just the first time someone called you on it." He's quiet. For so long she thinks he won't answer. "Then, I don't hate you." "Then what was that?" "At dinner. In front of your family. In front of our daughter." Her voice rises despite her efforts to stay calm. "What do you call humiliating your wife for entertainment?" "I was..." He stops, runs a hand through his hair. "Christ, Elena, I don't know. I was angry. At me. At everything." The words explode out of him. "At my job. At my father calling me yesterday to tell me how disappointed he is in my career choices. At feeling like I'm failing at everything that's supposed to matter." Elena stares at him. "So you decided to make me the target." "I didn't decide anything. It just happened. For months, David. This has been happening for months. The comments, the criticism, the way you look at me like I'm something you scraped off your shoe." She takes a step closer, and he finally looks up at her. "When did I become your enemy?" The pain in his eyes is raw, unexpected. "You're not my enemy." "Then why does it feel like I am?" They stand there in the lamplight, to people who once knew each other's dreams, who once planned a future with sunshine yellow houses and children's laughter. Elena can smell his cologne, the same one he's worn since college, and it triggers 1,000 memories she thought were buried. Their first date, their wedding day, the night Lily was born, when he cried harder than Elena did. "I don't know how to fix this," he whispers. Elena's heart stutters, because buried under all his cruelty, she hears something she hasn't heard in years: vulnerability. The real David, not the performer who showed up at dinner tonight. "I don't know if you can," she whispers back, but for the first time in months, she wants him to try. 3 months later, Elena stands in her studio, the converted garage that David helped her transform last month, surprising her with French doors and north-facing windows that flood the space with perfect light. Her latest painting sits on the easel, Lily at 8 years old, fierce and protective, with her father's eyes but her mother's stubborn chin. She hears footsteps and doesn't turn around. She knows his walk, now tentative where it used to be commanding, careful where it used to assume welcome. "How's it coming?" David asks softly. "Almost finished." Elena adds a tiny highlight to the painted Lily's eyes. She wants to hang it in her room. She should. It's beautiful. She's beautiful. A pause, like her mother. Elena does turn then, brush still in hand. David stands in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee, hers with cream and honey, his black. It's become their morning ritual, these careful offerings of ordinary kindness. "How was therapy?" she asks, accepting the warm mug. "Hard," David's standard answer. But he's learned to elaborate now. "Dr. Morrison wants me to call my father, set boundaries about the criticism, and I'm terrified." He attempts a smile. 42 years old and still afraid of disappointing Daddy. Elena studies his face. 3 months of weekly sessions have worn away some of the hardness around his eyes. He looks younger, somehow, more like the man she married. "You don't have to do it alone," she offers quietly. "I know, that's new for me, the not doing things alone part." They've had this conversation in various forms over the past weeks. David learning to share his burdens instead of converting them into weapons. Elena learning to voice her needs instead of swallowing them into resentment. It's not easy. Some days feel like starting over from scratch, to strangers learning to navigate the same space. But other days, like last Tuesday when he brought her lunch while she painted, or Thursday evening when they all played board games and David let Lily win, without making it obvious, feel like hope. "Elena," his voice carries weight, and she looks up from her coffee. "I need to say something." Her stomach tightens. In their early sessions, "I need to say something" usually meant more painful truths about their marriage, more admissions of damage done. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about that night at dinner." David sets down his cup, moves closer but stops just outside arm's reach, still learning the geography of her comfort zone. "About what Lily said." Elena nods, waiting. "She asked why I married you if I didn't love you." His eyes are steady on hers now, and I realized I never answered her. "Not really." "David, let me finish, please." He takes a breath. "I married you because you saw something in me I didn't even know was there. You married a scared kid pretending to be a man, and somehow you made me believe I could become someone worthy of you." Elena's throat tightens. "I lost sight of that somewhere along the way. Started believing I wasn't enough for you. So I tried to make you smaller to match how small I felt." His voice breaks slightly. "I nearly destroyed the most precious thing in my life because I was too much of a coward to admit I was struggling. And now," Elena whispers, "now I wake up every morning grateful that you're still here, that you're giving me a chance to remember how to love you the way you deserve." He steps closer, close enough that she can smell his soap, see the sincerity in his eyes. "I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm asking if you'll help me become the man our daughter already believes I can be." Elena sets down her mug with trembling hands. "I'm scared, David." "Of what?" "Of letting you back in completely and having you leave again. Of teaching Lily that love means accepting cruelty as long as there are apologies afterward." "Then don't." His answer surprises her. "Don't let me back in until I've proven I'm safe, until you trust that I won't hurt you again." She looks at him. For a long moment, this man she's loved and feared and almost lost. "How do I know when that is?" David's smile is soft, real. "You'll know. You've always been the wise one in this family." Through the French doors, Elena can see Lily playing in the garden, planting sunflower seeds in neat rows. Their daughter looks up and waves, grinning, dirt streaking her cheeks. "She saved us, didn't she?" Elena murmurs. "No," David says quietly. "She gave us a chance to save ourselves." Elena reaches for his hand the first time she's initiated contact in months. His fingers are warm, familiar, and when he squeezes gently, she doesn't pull away. "One day at a time," she asks. "One day at a time." He agrees, and in the studio filled with light and possibility, Elena thinks maybe that's enough. Maybe that's everything. David's confession hangs in the air between them like smoke. Elena watches him crumble into the leather chair that used to be her father's, the one piece of furniture she'd insisted on keeping when they moved into this house. Seeing him there, broken and small, triggers something complicated in her chest. "Talk to me," she says, settling into the chair across from him, not beside him on the sofa, where she might be tempted to comfort him too quickly. Distance. She needs distance to think clearly. "Where do I even start?" His laugh is bitter, hollow. "With how I watch you every morning, making coffee and packing Lily's lunch, and I think about how you deserve better than this, better than me." Elena blinks. What, you think I don't see it? How you light up when you're painting. How you used to light up when you looked at me. He meets her eyes finally, and the pain there is staggering. When's the last time you looked at me like I was someone worth loving? The question hits her like cold water. When was the last time? When did she stop seeing her husband and start seeing only her critic, her disappointment, the man who made her feel small? When's the last time you gave me a reason to? She counters. But the fight has gone out of her voice. God, Elena, I know I've been. He struggles for words. My father called last week. Did I tell you that? She shakes her head. Promotion went to someone else, again. Third time in 2 years. David's hands clench and unclench in his lap, and all he could say was how he never had these problems when he was my age. How maybe I'm not trying hard enough, not hungry enough. Elena feels something shift inside her chest. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm supposed to be the one taking care of you. I'm supposed to be the provider, the protector, and instead his voice breaks. I'm a 42-year-old man, getting lectured by his father like I'm still 12 years old. The silence stretches, but it's different now, softer somehow. So you took it out on me. Elena says quietly, it's not a question. I took it out on the one person I knew would still be there, no matter how badly I behaved. His smile is self-loathing. Pretty pathetic, isn't it? I turned my wife into my emotional punching bag because I was too much of a coward to stand up to my old man. Elena closes her eyes. She can picture it so clearly now, David coming home, carrying his father's disappointment, his own sense of failure, and looking for somewhere to put all that pain. And there she was, safe and predictable and too in love to fight back. You were killing us, she whispers. I know. You were killing me, I know. She opens her eyes and really looks at him, past the cruelty of recent months, past the stranger he'd become at that dinner table. She looks for the man who used to dance with her in their tiny apartment kitchen, who held her hair when morning sickness kept her bent over the toilet for months, who cried the day they brought Lily home from the hospital and whispered, "We made something perfect." He's still there, buried under layers of hurt and pride and fear, but still there. Our daughter shouldn't have had to be the adult in that room tonight, Elena says. No, she shouldn't have. David looks toward the ceiling, toward Lily's room. She was protecting you from me. Our 8-year-old daughter was protecting her mother from her father. The weight of that statement settles between them. I've been thinking about leaving. Elena admits quietly. David goes very still. Elena, not because I don't love you. The words surprise them both, but because I love myself too much to keep accepting this. What does that mean? She stands, moves to the window that overlooks their backyard. The garden she planted 5 years ago is overgrown now, neglected. Like so many things in their life, it means I remember who I used to be before I became afraid of making you angry. Before I started walking on eggshells in my own home. She turns back to him. I used to paint, David, every day. I used to sing while I cooked. I used to laugh at your jokes instead of bracing for your criticisms. You still could I? When's the last time you asked about my art? When's the last time you touched me like you wanted to? Not like you were doing me a favor. David's face crumbles completely. Elena, please, I can change. I want to change. And looking at him now, really looking, she thinks maybe he means it. Maybe they're not too broken to fix. But she also knows that wanting to change and actually changing are two very different things. Prove it, she whispers.